My name is Tim Tremblay. I'm the founder, registered securities principal here at Tremblay Financial Services. And on behalf of our entire organization, and particularly tonight, Mike Miranda and myself, we welcome you here for what we think can be very valuable information for you and your financial plan. As we get going here tonight, I just wanted to give a little history, a little background of Tremblay Financial Services. Now, I grew up here in Santa Barbara. I went to Bishop Diego High School, Santa Barbara City College. I played football. I did well with football. In fact, I got a football scholarship, a full ride to Wake Forest University. Got a great education and a great experience playing football. I graduated in the Dean's List in Business Communications and went on to law school at Cal Western down in San Diego. After 1 year of law, I saw that that wasn't what I wanted to do. And as my wife and I discussed what our future would be at that time, we both decided we wanted to raise our family in Santa Barbara. So we came back to town and I started looking at different career paths. And the more I looked at financial services, financial planning, I decided that was the career for me and my family moving forward. Now, that was a long process. You had to go through a background check at the big wirehouses where you got this great training, but they're going to invest a lot of money in you as a financial advisor. So they're careful when they go through the hiring process. So it took a long time. So at that time, I decided, out of a wife and a baby, I better take care of them as well while I'm going through this process. So I got a job at Joe's Cafe as a waiter. And that was great. I was doing my interviewing and so on, but it wasn't quite enough money for the needs that we had. So I also got a job working as a mechanic. My friend that I grew up with here in town owned a body shop across the street from Joe's Cafe. And he told me, anytime you want, you can use one of the bays if you want to work on cars. So I put an ad in the paper. VW engine rebuilding. I could do tune-ups, valve jobs, and in addition to working as a waiter to support my family. Well, this one day, Kathy comes in with her Volkswagen Bug, and it's not running very well. And I said, well, let me do a valve compression test. And sure enough, she had burned valves. I told her it would take 1 day. You bring it in at 8 in the morning. I'll have it ready for you that evening. $345 for a valve job. She said, great. She left. Came back the next morning at 8 o'clock. I'm in my blue mechanic's outfit. I sign the work order and I say, Kathy, I'll see you at 5 o'clock. We'll have this done. She left. I pulled the engine out, pulled the accessories off, pulled the heads off. Sure enough, burned valves. Sent them to the machine shop. Now it's time for me to do lunch. I have to take off my blue mechanic's outfit, put on my white shirt, bow tie dinner jacket, run across the street. I'm sitting on my station, and who walks in? Kathy. She sees me there, and she says, there's a guy that looks just like you working on my car. I said, that's me. And she goes, well, how in the world are you going to have my car ready? I said, don't worry. I'll have your car ready. And in fact, we have great beef dips here at Joe's Cafe. She had a beef dip and a cup of coffee. She said, my husband's not going to believe it. I said, don't worry about it. I'll see you at 5 o'clock. She left. I finished the rush hour with lunch at Joe's Cafe, ran across the street, took off my white shirt and bow tie dinner jacket, put on my blue mechanic's outfit. And by the time I did that, the heads showed up from the machine shop. I installed the heads, torqued them down, put the accessories on, put a new clutch in, installed the engine. And at 5 o'clock, she showed up, and there I was, setting the timing. It's purring like a kitten. She said, my husband's not going to believe it. I said, let's take it around the block. Thing ran great. I said, make sure you come back for the 3,000-mile valve adjustment. She said, my husband is not going to believe it. I said, bring him in for dinner. She said, we'll see. So get my check for $345, take off my mechanic's blue outfit, put on my white shirt, bow tie dinner jacket, and run across the street and set up my station for dinner. Who walks in? Kathy and her husband. That's him. That's the guy. I said, how's that car running? He said, it's running great. And I said, make sure you come in for that 3,000-mile valve adjustment. And I said, now we have great steaks here at Joe's Cafe. He had a steak. We had a good time that night discussing what I had just done that day. And that night they left me $100 tip. And in 1983, that was a lot of money. And so I come home to my wife, Marcia, and say, I'm not getting into financial services. Look what I did. $345 for the valve job, $100 tip, my lunch tips, my dinner tips. She goes, no, you're going into financial services. And I tell that story because that's where I came from. And what does it tell you as an investor at Tremblay Financial? We're not afraid of hard work here. And we tell you we're going to do something, we get it done. And that mantra has continued for 37 years. At the big wirehouses, I worked. I got hired at Prudential Bache. I worked there at Smith, Barney, and Crutnan for 14 years. And then 23 years ago, started Tremblay Financial Services. And we've been at it ever since. And we've learned a lot along the way. I think we've become better and better with the experience that we've gleaned, especially during the difficult times. You know, in the past 37 years, the experience that I gained going through the crash in 1987, I learned so much then. One of the wise advisors there, as I got started in this business, said, Tim, whatever you do, don't let your clients liquidate into this downturn. If anything, make sure they buy more. General Motors didn't just lose 20% of its portfolio. They're on sale. It was a great lesson. And I was there through the fiasco with the savings and loans as they went out of business. And the limited partnership fiasco as tax laws changed. And Milken and Boesky and their junk bond fiasco. And the difficulties that we saw as the market hit a high in the late 90s, early 2000. We saw a record high with the dot-coms. And over the next 3 years, we saw the meltdown of the dot-coms, 9/11, Afghanistan, Iraq. If you had 100,000 in the Dow Jones Industrial Average or the S&P 500, 3 years later, you would have had 51. And then it went to a record high in 2008. We went through the Great Recession. We saw portfolios decline 60, 70% in less than a year. And then, of course, the coronavirus. The Dow was at 30,000, and in less than a couple of months, we saw it drop to 18,000. We're coming out of that, but there's still a lot of uncertainty in front of us. And we're here at Tremblay Financial to help guide our clients through whatever might take place in this market. We've developed what we refer to as the triad. This is an asset allocation program that has gotten our clients through the most difficult of times. The triad consists of 3 asset classes. You see the red is safe money, the green is the alternatives or the non-correlated, and the blue is the managed money, the stocks and bonds. We think it's important to have each of these asset allocations within a portfolio. And again, depending on where you are in your financial plan, it'll tell you which portion has the heavier weighted amount. Early on, as you have plenty of time for your investments to work for you, time mitigates risk, you'll have more in the managed money portion. As you get closer to retirement, you'll have more in the safe money portion. And this has gotten our clients through difficult times because the safe money, that red portion, it can only go sideways or up. And we're using fixed indexed annuities. At this point, that's market driven. It's given us very fine returns while still protecting that principal in any of the earnings that have been locked in. The alternatives are not in the stock market. They don't trade. Preferred stock, non-traded bonds, real estate investment trusts, business development corporations. The markets can be volatile and be going up and down through these different gyrations that we've been experiencing. The alternatives do not participate, and they pay nice yields between 5 and 8.5%. You see the arrow going from the green to the blue. Every month we dollar cost average from those alternatives into the managed money. And doing that on a consistent basis, when the market's down, you get more for your money. When the market's up, you don't buy as many shares, but it's a great way to get the best asset allocation that you can in that managed portfolio using the dollar cost averaging approach. And it's very flexible to move from the growth mode, which is what we're discussing right now, to the income mode. The alternatives can then go directly to your checking account rather than dollar cost averaging. The managed money, we move from growth portfolio to income producing portfolio. And the safe money, we can turn the income on and automatically send 1, 2, or all 3 of those asset classes to your checking account. And we've had clients that have said, let's go with income right away. We set it up that way, and they get a job as a consultant as they go into retirement. They don't need the income, so it's very easy to go back to the growth mode. It's simply a signature and a phone call, and we're able to flexibly go from income to growth or back again. This asset allocation has been the key to the success that we've enjoyed at Tremblay Financial Services. One of the things that we're most proud of here is the Reader's Choice Award that we've been awarded for 16 years in a row through the Santa Barbara News Press. Our community here in Santa Barbara has voted us the best full-service investment firm for 16 years in a row. It's something we're very proud of. That tells us we're doing the right thing. Our community has voted us over that time period, and we're very, very proud of that. We find out who our client is financially, and then we go to the resources that we have to develop the asset allocation that fits your situation in the best way possible through this triad that we've developed at Tremblay Financial. Now, tonight, we're going to discuss what we feel is a very, very important part of your financial plan, but it's often overlooked. And that's estate planning. We don't want our clients to leave a mess for their heirs. And with the proper planning, we can not only have your portfolio working as hard as it possibly can for you and your family, but we'll have it in a position where when it's time to pass to your heirs, that you do it seamlessly and in a way that's so efficient tax-wise, as well as the cost of having that done. And so with that, it gives me a great deal of pleasure to introduce my partner, Mike Mirando. Mike has 16 years of experience in financing, and he's been with Tremblay Financial Services now for 9 years. A big part of our team, and he's our expert in the area of financial planning, estate planning at Tremblay Financial. We've developed a team of attorneys and CPAs that we rely on, and Mike has done a wonderful job of coordinating each of these very, very important parts of an estate plan. So with that, it gives me a great deal of pleasure to introduce Mike Mirando. Mike, take it away.
Thank you, Tim. Very well done. I think you've done a really great job of setting the stage for what we're going to be talking about this evening. And estate planning is a very, very challenging part of your wealth management. And so when we start talking about how we go about getting an estate plan, there's a lot of components to it, and it's a very emotional type of a situation. Well, what we have found, we do a lot of work with the Dave Ramsey. If you listen to Dave Ramsey speak on the radio or watched any of his shows or been to any of his events, one of his biggest comments is a good man leaves a legacy for his children's children. And what we're going to be talking about today are, in essence, the biggest challenges that we might come across when we're trying to set up the estate plan, how we're going to be able to pass those legacy assets. Right now, Tim and I are baby boomers, and we are watching our family members, the greatest generation, pass their wealth on to us. And then we are now becoming the largest accumulators of wealth in the history of the world. And we're going to be passing those assets on to our children, the millennials and Gen X's. And then, if we really, really do it right, it'll go to our children's children, I'm recently a grandfather. I have one grandchild. It's the most extraordinary thing. And if we can really create a legacy that passes to our children's children, that would be extraordinary. So this evening, we're going to talk about what are the biggest challenges to that? What does it look like? What are the components of it? What are the living documents? What is a will and a trust? And so we're going to kind of go through a very rapid succession of what those documents are, some of the pitfalls related to them, why they're important. As Tim had mentioned, I've been with Tremblay Financial Services for 16 years. I mean, in the finance for 16 years and with Tremblay for 9 now. But before that, I was an airline pilot. And he said, have a plan. Well, as an instructor pilot and also as an airline pilot, we did a lot of planning. Think what it takes to be successful to get ourselves and our passengers to a destination. Lots of components. And so it's kind of a nature of who I am and who Tim is. And we're going to share some of our thoughts with you this evening. So as we go into the presentation, over some of the kind of housekeeping things that we have is if you have a question, if you would please send an email to me at mmirando@tremblayfinancial.com, and we'll get back to you on those. As we go through this presentation, we're going to be giving you opportunity to set up a consultative appointment with us. We'll be talking very significantly why it would be important for you to do that. This is education. We are going to just share thoughts with you today. And so again, questions and comments to mmirando@Tremblay Financial. And so getting right to who will inherit the mess, what is estate planning? Let's just think that estate planning is a way for you to preserve and protect and pass your assets on to your heirs. The key to it is maintaining control and protection of those assets. We're going to hear the word probate. What is probate? Is it good? Is it bad? What's it all about? We're going to discuss that. But at the end of the day, think of it, I think the biggest picture that we can create when we're talking about what does an estate plan do, an estate plan is put in place to be able to protect my heirs, my wife, my children, to have the ability to help make decisions about me, help make decisions about my wife, and then have the ability to go to the institutions and the companies that main possession of our assets and provide them proof of ownership. That's all that really is. How do we create a chain of event, a custody of a chain of custody that gets us to where when our heirs show up, they can speak for us, they can prove that they have the accessibility to the assets so that it passes to them seamlessly, gives us a transfer of information to our heirs. And I think that's what most people desire. They don't want to be a burden. They don't want fighting amongst their heirs, their children, their people who they want to give their charitable contributions to. We want them to have a clean and stress-free transfer of the wealth to them and to their children. And so if we do enough communicating up front and be able to provide them with all the information that it's going to need to have that happen, I think they will not be inheriting in a mess. And in today's society, it is very challenging. We have multi-families, we have divorces and remarriages, and we've got heirs that are worthy of your assets. There are other heirs that are not so worthy of your assets. And so how do we create that planning? How do we create that passing of those assets so that all of your heirs feel the love that you want to provide to them? In essence, providing that manna from heaven that will allow them to receive those assets given in the spirit that you'd like to give them. And so how can we do that? How do we set that up? Well, it's about communication. You know what? There's this concept that's called the baby powder syndrome. And in essence, when a parent looks at a child, and if they have put baby powder on your bottom, they probably don't want to know about finances and sex from you. So what we want to do as parents is we want to share information with them. And children need to be involved in the process because those are the people that will be stepping up to help you during your medical care days. Those will be the individuals who are going to be showing up to receive the assets that you're bestowing upon them. So what we need to do is we need to create as clear of instructions and clear of a chain of custody that we can to provide success for our heirs. And so what is one of the primary problems that Tim and I see? Okay, we are financial advisors, we are wealth managers, but we have two other relationships within your kind of primary respected counselors that are going to help you be successful as you go into retirement. Now, we don't have the doctor on here, but you have your financial advisor, the lawyer, and the CPA. And the lawyer is one or two functions. It's either an estate planning attorney or possibly a tax lawyer, depending on the extent of your estate. And then you have a CPA who's good at both taxation and reporting. And then you have the financial advisor who is trying to create the greatest amount of chips, the greatest amount of nest egg that you can so that you have a successful retirement. But the question is, are we talking together? How do we place you in the middle of this triad, if you will, to be successful? And oh, by the way, still being able to participate with information transfer with your doctors when you go into that long-term care / end-of-life scenario. And so what Tim and I have found is that it has been very challenging for some of our clients if we didn't create this 3-in-1 to be able to provide the support for us and the attorney and the lawyers. And so that is the comprehensive estate planning that we're talking about. How do we put a cohesive conversation between these three entities and then also provide documentation so that when your heirs go to the doctors and the hospitals and the nurses and all of the institutions that you're going to be dealing with as it relates to your long-term care and into your hospital support and end-of-life scenario, how do we do that? Now, it's interesting. Tim and I'd say if we could get $1 for every time that we've heard some of our prospective clients say to us, hey, I'm loyal to my advisor, I'm loyal to my attorney, they've done a really great job for me in the past, they've done all of this wonderful work for me. This person, my advisor, has been very loyal to me. I may know them from church. I've got everything taken care of. But what I have to say to you is competency. Are these individuals competent in these areas? Do they have this relationship figured out? And what we're saying to you is that we would love for you to come and have a 30-minute consultation with us to make sure that you've got all of your ducks in a row. So there will be a request for an appointment coming up on the screen here. Please take advantage of it, and we'll sit down and talk to you very specifically about it. Okay, with that being said, let's get into the living documents. Identity theft and HIPAA. Identity theft is one of the largest challenges that we're experiencing right now as the aged population gets older and older and maybe not as alert as they usually are or as mentally competent. They are getting taken advantage of. So we want to start raising a red flag for those of you that are soccer sports fans. We want to raise our hand and say identity theft is a challenge. And we really want to be able to provide you with the proper support and the proper programs that are going to allow you to monitor identity theft, both for yourself and your loved ones. And then HIPAA, the Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act. Both of these kind of go hand in hand because it's one of these things that if we don't have the ability to represent someone else, have the proper document in place so that we can represent other individuals and ask questions about their account or their health care, these are the two documents that we're going to want to be able to put in place. I mean, think about it. If someone hacks into your phone account and your wife's name is on it, you can't call in to Verizon or AT&T to talk to them about the account that your phone might be on. I mean, it's even worse when you go to the doctor and your mother or your father have just had an incident and you're trying to talk to the doctor and the doctor says, well, you might be the son or the daughter, but we don't have the ability to talk advice with you. Where is the HIPAA? Where is the medical power of attorney? Where's this next document that we're going to be talking about? So we really have to have those in place. The couple different living documents that we have is the power of attorney. Okay, so the power of attorney just gives an individual access to manage another person's finances. Basically, while you're alive, maybe you go into a situation where you aren't able to be in control of yourself because of some mental incapacity. The power of attorney allows you to have someone speak for you, pay your bills, talk to your bank account, do whatever you need, pay your rent, do the things that matter for your financial matters. So we need to have a power of attorney in place. And along with that HIPAA, we now have the healthcare directive. That is in essence, helping the ability for you to speak for your mother, your father, your wife, your loved ones for medical decisions. Kind of went along the lines of the HIPAA. You want to have those HIPAA documents refreshed with your doctors and your medical offices every 2 years. And we say to you, please think about not only the wife or the husband, but what about the children? Okay, in case one or both of you get in a challenging situation, have that HIPAA document for multiple generations. And then within the healthcare directive, now right here I have in the state of California, if y'all can see this, the 5 wishes. The 5 wishes document, this comes from Cottage Hospital, Sansom Clinic. This is a page-by-page questionnaire that, again, when we're talking about estate planning, there's a lot of very intimate thoughts that we need to go through as it relates to how we're going to address our end-of-life situation. And this 5 wishes booklet does a wonderful job asking the questions, giving you the topics to think about. So take a look at this, and we'll probably incorporate this into your healthcare directive. And so the objective here is, again, is communication, team. We need communication. We need to tell people what we're thinking. We need to share our wants and our desires and our hopes as it comes to how we want our end of life to work. And this healthcare directive and this 5 wishes gives us a great way to do that. And so as we move on, so we've done HIPAA, we've done identity theft, we've done medical power of attorney, durable power of attorney, 5 wishes. Now we're going to kind of get into, we think estate planning, well, we think wills and trusts. Okay. There's a question. Will you go to probate? Well, that's a leading question. And in essence, I don't know. There's a will and there's a trust. And so when we start talking about a will, it basically is a good way to transfer assets if the components or our net worth abide it. In other words, if our net worth is easy enough to be able to describe and to legacy transfer, then a will maybe go. But it also is for the state of California, more than $70,000 of personal net worth, you automatically go to probate. Now, this is a probate for the state of Minnesota. I put it on here just to show you how crazy it will be to go through, and it takes at least a year to a year and a half, and it's fairly expensive. This is just a good example of probate, and you really don't want to go through that process. But it doesn't mean that a will is bad or good. It just is it proper for you? Now, probate, it will have to go, a will have to go through probate. It is public in its expression because they record everything and they make it available for everybody to put their eyes on, and it costs money for the settlement. And again, who knows? Fighting, we talked about all of the challenges that family have. Will a will be powerful enough to be able to provide it? When we start talking about multiple family members and we just say, hey, you know what, split the estate evenly, well, what does that mean? And who makes that decision? And so a will, it's functional, but it may not be the best way to go. What about the basics of a revocable trust? We talk about a will and a trust. Well, now we're talking about a trust. It doesn't go to probate. There is no public filings. Probably no fighting, because if you communicate your desires specifically enough within the document, there shouldn't be any fighting because you're going to be explicit on how it's going to go. Settlement, there still will be some cost because depending on the assets that you have and how we have to file for different titles and such like that, there may be some cost to it. But with a certificate of trust and a death certificate, it is seamless. It gives the trustee, the testator, the ability to have significant power to be able to go to the institutions and provide a custody of ownership to the institutions, and it makes it seamless. So a lot that goes on to it. And then at the end of the day, we put all this time together. We've sat and talked about all the people that we love, how we want to bless them, identified all of our assets. Think of putting a dome. We put a dome over all of our assets, our homes and our financial products and our real estate and our possessions, our art, our collectibles, everything we put underneath the dome. And then when we're putting our trust together, we identify those assets that in essence we need to put a fence around. What are those assets that we need to make very specifically have the chain of custody reflect how we're going to control those? 401ks, IRAs, some of those, those are trust in themselves. They may not be needing to be into the fencing, but what we have is we've got change of taxation. Tim did a great job of talking about, hey, there's a lot of taxation that's going on large estates. And so we just had the Secure Act come in, and there's no longer stretch IRAs anymore. You have to pay those in 10 years. So is it better to have the trust be in control of the IRA beneficiary, or do we still want to name individuals? There's decisions that need to be made in there, and that's what Tim and I are here to help you with. But a trust is not completed, even though it's written. You've actually signed it. You've actually got a notary to come and sign it. The trust is not in force until you put all of the assets and retitle them into the name of the trust. Because if you die and you haven't changed and retitled some of your assets into the trust, that's a probate situation. Now, Tim and I have been doing this for a long time, and what we find is the higher the net worth of an individual or a family, the more challenges that there are. We're just dealing with and believe this or not, we're working with a family that won the Publishers Clearinghouse. Yeah, they do pay $6.5 million. And the mother won. She went into an Alzheimer's situation. She didn't have the asset into a trust. She didn't put it in the name of the trust. And now we've got 6 heirs that are vying for how are we going to probate this huge windfall from the Publishers Clearinghouse. So that's just a small example to give you what this can kind of look like. You want to get in front of it. And even when you think you've got it dialed in, just please know you probably need a second set of eyes just to double check that you've got everything situated. And that, in essence, what Tim and I are offering to provide for you. So again, a lot of things can go on. There's a lot of things to consider. I did, if I go back to the aviation, I just did a 1,000-foot flyover. There's such a depth of knowledge that needs to go in there, and a lot of depth of questioning that goes into how you're going to create it. But just know, Tim and I are here to help you coordinate your estate planning attorney, your CPA, trying to get all those documents in place, retitle your trust to make sure that all of the assets are into and under the protection of your plan. And so we'd like to have you join us for 30 minutes. We'll go through a brief questionnaire just to kind of see what's going on. Maybe you just need a tune-up on your existing trust. Maybe the will that you had isn't encompassing what you need. Maybe you need a complete restatement of your trust, depending on how long it was until you made your trust last time. Maybe there's life events that have changed. Maybe, you've had divorces. Maybe children's have had divorces. There's a lot of different things that go on. And all we want to do is make sure that we help you make sure that all of your assets are within the corral and underneath the dome and identified and situated so that you do not pass the mess onto your children. Think of it as a blessing to them. Think of putting your ducks in a row so that your kids know what's going on, communicate to them, make them very clear of what you have in expectations, because again, what we're looking for is a very clean, loving, transfer of assets to your children. And I know that's basically what all of you would love to have. So let's sit down and work together to make that happen. What you've got here is there's a questionnaire on the screen here for you to set up a 30-minute complimentary review. And we look forward to speaking with you. Have a wonderful, wonderful day.